Story 1. Underground or resistance. There are individuals in our occupied territories who continue to take action. They live in constant fear, often facing betrayal, and witnessing friends being kidnapped, tortured, or killed. It is not the glamorous setting of a classic film. Story 2. Stalking is often portrayed in romantic comedies as a grand romantic gesture. In real life, it is anything but that. Story 3. Moving together. Even in movies, they are all happy and smiling while carrying the boxes around. In reality, it is a nightmare, the logistics of it and getting used to someone else in your house. Story 4. An outdoor wedding on a hot summer day brings the heat, bright sunlight, and an abundance of flies and bugs, which can be quite overwhelming. Story 5. Pregnancy is not easy for the person experiencing it, I hear. Sure, it generates a life which is good. Usually, there is always a risk to life, nausea, and more that people talk much less about than, oh my gosh, you guys, it's a miracle of life. Story 6. Attending college is an incredible opportunity, but I feel it is often romanticized in media and American culture in general. Movies and television shows rarely capture the debilitating stress associated with coursework, the lifelong student loan debt, or the challenges of balancing part-time jobs as full-time students. Many individuals cannot afford the ideal college lifestyle of parties, yet in films, it seems to be portrayed as a universal experience that all young people share. Story 7. Bad boys. Books and movies romanticize them, but in real life, no thanks. I can sense the unpaid child support, parole violations, and juggling multiple relationships from here. Some bad boys conceal their behavior better than others, but they are all problematic and rarely ever change. Story 8. The enemies to lovers trope can be thrilling, as it involves mutual attraction combined with an element of repulsion. However, once the initial excitement fades, you may find it challenging to cope with someone you are not fully compatible with on a daily basis. Story 9. Studying on the beach. You think it's going to be chill, relaxing, and productive, but the glare of the sun on a book is awful and sand gets in the book, which is maddening. I did a lot of studying near the beach and tried it multiple times. I would rate it a 1 out of 10 and do not recommend it. Story 10. Sex in the pool or on the beach. Sand or chlorinated water ruin any possibility of sustained lubrication. Additionally, sand fleas can be a nuisance. Story 11. Homeownership. I was fortunate enough to buy a house in 2017, but managing repairs and upkeep is quite demanding. Story 12. Living in a big city can be challenging due to high rent, long commutes, and the persistent smell of hot garbage in the summer. Story 13. Falling in love is terrifying, which is why they call it falling. Because you can get hurt, but you get back up in the end. That's the part they don't tell you about. Story 14. Paris. There is even a phenomenon named after it, Paris syndrome, where expectations are so high that reality will always lead to disappointment. Story 15. Traditional gender roles and marriages create disappointing situations for many men who claim to want a traditional wife. For women, this often results in financial abuse, isolation from friends and family, and the expectation to handle all the housework and childcare while the husband remains entitled. My cousin, a nurse with a good head on her shoulders, met a conservative man and became heavily influenced by right-wing media. Now, she is living in a van she dislikes while pregnant and without income. She lost her job for not being vaccinated, leaving her completely dependent on her unemployed partner, who has already stated he will not change a diaper or take care of their own child. Story 16. Rose petals are everywhere. They get stuck to you, ground into the carpet, and leave stains and stickiness on non-carpet flooring and bedspreads. Then you have to clean them up, which can kill the romantic vibe. Leave those petals on the roses as intended. Get truly romantic by cleaning the house for your special person, lighting a candle, and placing some roses in a vase. It's much nicer, and it's definitely romantic. Story 17. Creative careers such as artists, musicians, and chefs are often underpaid, and the future of work in these fields is frequently uncertain. Additionally, businesses that employ these professionals tend to engage in predatory practices. Story 18. 5 days a week in the office. Usually baby boomers like Jamie Dimon, but sometimes Generation X individuals like Elon Musk. Story 19, the past. Many things can seem better when you're not the one actually living them. People romanticize many aspects they have never experienced themselves or things they barely remember. Story 20, getting out of poverty. Did it teach me skills that few people have? Yes. Was it miserable, depressing, and did it rob me of years of personal growth? Absolutely. While I may always look down on the rich and privileged for what they possess, I will never wish for anyone to experience what I have gone through. Story 21. Running in the rain to meet someone you love and having a romantic moment might seem thrilling when you watch it in the movies. But in reality, it can be unpleasant because you both will be wet and cold. This increases the chance of getting sick with a cough or cold. Story 22. When women and men find a prison pen pal and start a romance, knowing very well they are in there for life, one might wonder why. Story 23. Travel involves a lot of waiting and dealing with the general public and bureaucracy. If teleportation to vacation destinations were possible, I would enjoy it. Story 24. Spontaneous travel sounds adventurous, but in reality, it involves overpriced last-minute flights, questionable accommodations, and forgotten essentials. Story 25. Sticking by someone, especially a significant other, no matter what. I did it for 32 years. I should have left at least 10 years, probably 15 years prior. Such a waste. Story 26. Depending on a man for money can be tiring when you don't have your own bank account for personal spending. Feels as though you lack privacy. Instead of feeling like a pampered princess, you may often feel guilty and bored. Story 27. Influencer lifestyles. I really can't imagine obsessing over how your pictures look rather than enjoying the moment. Story 28. Giving birth. The entire experience of pregnancy, childbirth, and new motherhood is often portrayed as idyllic, but in reality, it can be painful and largely undignified. Throughout pregnancy, you deal with various aches, pains, discomfort, nausea, invasive examinations, and people treating your body as if it is public property, often losing their sense of decorum. Giving birth is chaotic. It's painful. And by the time the baby arrives, it feels like everyone has seen your entire situation. Then you are handed this fragile, squirming little creature that feels incredibly delicate. You must learn to respond appropriately to its various, frustratingly similar sounds while your body is still recovering and you experience significant bleeding. I love my children and would do it all again, but it is not the glorious miracle that it is often depicted to be. Story 29. Sexual activity in the shower or applying peanut butter to your genitals and inviting a dog to lick it off. Story 30. Getting married is a legal and financial contract, and it always has been. The best trick the patriarchy ever pulled was getting women to aspire to it. Story 31. Money, don't get me wrong, it's great to be rich up to a certain point, but after that, the responsibilities and commitments can outweigh the gains in quality of life that come from stepping up the tax bracket. Not to mention, you may constantly question why anyone wants to be friends with you, emphasizing the financial aspect of your identity over other parts of who you are. Furthermore, you may find that you require more and more to feel happy, because when you have everything, nothing brings you joy anymore. This leads to a cycle where you continually strive to recapture the high you once experienced from success, instead of appreciating what you currently have. It never ends and can result in many people becoming power hungry because they can afford to do anything financially. Story 32. Overworking, rise and grind sounds inspiring until you are sleep deprived, miserable, and running on caffeine and regret. Story 33. Toxic love, the whole passionate, chaotic romance thing. Constant drama and emotional exhaustion are not cute. Story 34. Hustle culture. Working nonstop just to showcase success on LinkedIn while your social life and mental health suffer? No thanks. Story 35. Owning a pet for aesthetic reasons has its drawbacks. Aesthetic dogs still need to relieve themselves, and that fluffy cat will absolutely ignore you unless it is mealtime. Story 36. Fascism was never acceptable. Neo-Nazis have never been acceptable, And the current fascination with fascism is also not acceptable. Story 37. Cuddling while sleeping, sharing baths in the tub, and sharing showers are not enjoyable. They all fall short of being fun. Story 38. Living in a rural area on a lifestyle block of 5 to 20 acres of land means spending all your time taking care of the land. Being so far away from your community can be isolating and challenging, leading some to refer to it as a life sentence block. Story 39. The Great Gatsby. My high school had a Gatsby-themed prom, and apparently, I was the only one who read the book because people were asking their dates out with signs saying, "Be the daisy to my Gatsby." You know, he died because of her husband's manipulations, and then she never went to his funeral? Not exactly romantic. Story 40. Bullying is perplexing. I don't understand what is appealing about someone pretending to hate you. It only serves to remind me to keep my distance from that person. Story 41. The turmoil in romantic movies, where you try to grasp the love of your life because it feels like the last chance you will ever see each other, is quite different from reality. In real life, it is not romantic. It feels extremely exhausting and torturous, evoking numerous negative emotions that you would rather not think about at all. Story 42. Murderers, characters will be evil to the core, but because of mild attractiveness and some soft moments, they become idolized. Story 43. Owning a restaurant, especially a coffee shop, can be challenging. I know a couple of people who own restaurants and technically make a lot of money, but they have to cover costs whenever things aren't going well. They live on the same level as I do but earn twice, if not 3 times, more than I do. If they lose power, their supplies spoil. I know a girl who practically lived off leftover pizza ingredients. That sounds appealing until you eat it every day. Story 44. 1. Always on the grind or hustle. Overly attached significant other. Always wants to spend time with me. Earning a master's degree at 24. Going directly from high school. Jesus died for your sins. Story 45. I have heard of borderline personality disorder being romanticized. It is painful because it feels like emotional whiplash, and people look at you as if you are crazy. I have received a full-thickness skin graft, and it was less painful than my severely challenging episodes of borderline personality disorder. Story 46. This could be a personal issue, but having an overly clingy partner is challenging. For example, they might not let you hang out with others, always want to know where you are going and who you are seeing, and if you don't respond to a message quickly, it feels like they think you are ignoring them. Of course, I want someone who cares about me and worries for me, but people also have their own lives outside of the relationship. This could just be my perspective, but having someone needy in that specific way should not be considered normal, in my opinion. Story 47. Homesteading. There is a reason 300 million people in China prefer dormitories and working 70 hours a week in factories to living off the land. Story 48. Autism and its romanticization do not serve a genuinely good purpose. It stems from a binary perspective that people on the spectrum are either absolute geniuses or completely worthless. Like politics, they refer to it as a spectrum for a reason. As an autistic individual from Albania, there is nothing worse than being on the spectrum while living in a developing country. Story 49. Human life, society, humanity, animal life, logic, language, sensory pleasure, opinions, light, air, water, earth, fire, space, time, and hidden secrets. Story 50. Macaroni and cheese, whether it is high class or from a box, is a gloopy, bloated, heartburn-inducing dish with a texture reminiscent of vomit. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.